Okay, I'm here today. Delighted to be talking to Liz Christy from Handwoven in Ireland. Liz works from Swallow Studios, based just outside Castleblaney in Aniala, and that is a joyous place to visit. I love going there, to hear the looms clicking and clacketing over and back, and seeing all the colour. So we've known each other for just over 6 years now, Liz. And you came to me for some coaching. So thank you very much for agreeing to do this, to tell everybody what you experienced, how you found coaching. So maybe you'd like to tell me first, what led you to seek coaching.
Okay. Well, my first coaching experience was through Creative Enterprises in Dundalk, through Craftmark and Louth Enterprise Board. And the guy, he was lovely. It was in an office, and I went in not knowing what to expect. It was glass, kind of a glass office. And before too long, the tears were streaming, and I didn't care who saw it because I felt it was good. And it was a great session. And he said, before it finished, he said to me, do yourself a favor before you go home and buy The Secret. So I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to take anything out of this, I'm going to do that. So, not being a great shopper, I took myself off to the Marshes for the first time and went to Eason's and bought The Secret. And I read The Secret in bits and pieces over the next few months. And it opened my eyes to how I could change my mindset and how I could react differently to things. And that happened before I met you. And when I met you through the BNI and we sat down to have our one-to-one, and it was as if you picked up where the other guy and I had finished, because I had done some work on myself in the meantime.
Okay.
And we set up a session. And I knew at that time that there was something holding me back, but I couldn't just put my finger on it, and I didn't know how to resolve it. So we had our walk in the woods in Dunaree, and there was more tears. And I realised that my self-confidence wasn't great. I didn't like the sound of my own voice. And I felt inadequate when it came to being out there in the business world. And at that point, I hadn't obviously resolved that part of my issues. So after that, I had homework to do, and we worked through the plan, and you kept in touch with me. We had follow-up sessions. And I feel as a result of that, that awful, sad weight has been lifted off me, lifted from my shoulders. And I can look at things now in a more open way. I see myself differently. I'm the same person. I speak the same. But I feel I have allowed my confidence to grow as a result of our coaching sessions. And I also feel that coaching is very different to counselling. Because when I went to the other guy, and then when I went to your sessions, I was of a mindset that I wanted to move forward.
Mm.
I wasn't going to change the past, or how things affected me or whatever down through the years. But it was all for me about moving forward and being the best version of myself that I could be. So that, I feel, is what coaching has enabled me to do and to be.
Wow, Liz, there's so many things I could even, hone in on from that. And I noticed that you said allowed myself to be confident.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that
That's the
really
truth.
key?
That is the truth.
Mm.
Um, because there was nobody holding myself back, only myself.
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know, and I had while I knew that, I suppose I had to find a way to overcome that, you know. And the fact that I am doing this interview here today with yourself is a testament to how far I have come, really. So that day that we walked in the woods, there was no way that I would have done an interview to be recorded and, you know, to share my thoughts and feelings, really, you know. So I feel coaching has really helped me. Your coaching has been excellent, both from I suppose I came to it from the point of view of wanting to bring my business forward, grow the business, and be the person that I knew I should be and could be in the business. But I had to start on myself. So life coaching and business and leadership coaching goes very much hand in hand, in my opinion.
Yes, yeah, I'm delighted to hear you say that because I agree with you totally. You know, when people come to me for coaching, for leadership or executive coaching, and they say, no, I don't need, you know, they might say themselves, I don't need life coaching. I just need to know how to manage my team, you know, and before long, within a few minutes, it's really evident that life, you know, their own life, the good and the bad aspects of it, or the good and the challenging aspects of it, have impacted or are impacting on their leadership and their confidence in their leadership, particularly, and in building the business. So that's really interesting. It's lovely to hear you say that because I believe it too, that it's all intertwined.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed you mentioned a few minutes ago was that one of the things that led you to coaching was that you wanted to have your voice, to find your voice and have a voice. Um, and I must say, I have noticed, and it's one of the things that is lovely to witness as a coach when you still are in contact with the client through whatever way, you know, because we're in contact a lot through other business networks that we're in. And I can see the growth that was, you know, that you know, pushed yourself through in the beginning. You did it. I didn't do it. You did it. But I can see it's still growing in terms of being asked regularly to speak at events. You know, obviously we're in the Northeast, but you're asked to speak at events, All Ireland events and tourism events, and you're asked to mentor others in the arts and crafts and design industry. And it makes my heart sing then because you just do it. I have never heard you say, no, I'm not doing that. You're doing it. Oh, and you say it almost casually. Oh, I'm speaking at, or oh, I'm going to do this, which is just a joy to see. Um, so do you find yourself in those moments when somebody asks you to speak at an event, do you find yourself now automatically going to the sort of skills and strengths that you developed during coaching and in the times after that? Do you automatically go there?
I think I probably do. My general reaction when I'm asked to do something is to feel honored to be asked, you know, and not afraid and capable of doing it. And then I think, okay, yeah, I can do this. You know, I'll give it a go. You know, sure, how bad can I be? Like, you know, and it's all about being authentic. Like even when we have a tour in the studios, there's no two tours the same. I don't have a script. I react to the people that are there and they react to me. They engage with me. So the tour is very much a response between the group and myself. And they're getting an authentic experience of what the studio is on that day. You know, I don't feel that I have to be anybody else or, you know, put on a different voice. I don't need a telephone voice.
Yeah.
And that is something that's very important to me, really, that I
Yes.
can be myself. And the
Yeah.
studios was built with a view to it becoming a tourist attraction in 2004. And it's really only now that we're really starting to get into that. And there was a reason for that. It was meant to be, you know, I was meant to grow. I was meant to experience coaching and take the ball and run with it.
Yeah.
And the time is now for that, you know, to see the fruits of that, you know, and I'm in going and speaking to, you know, incoming tour operators and destination management companies, I feel my voice is just fine. And I can genuinely attribute that to my coaching, like yourself.
And I will attribute it back to you because you did it. It's the coaching
I
process.
did it, but
Yeah,
you gave me the
yeah,
tools. And I can't list off it was A, B, or C.
yeah.
It's a holistic thing, a way of um elevating your whole self to be the person you want to be.
Yeah. And to be yourself, as you say,
Be yourself.
authentic.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We did a fashion show many years ago. Probably we didn't know each other that long. A group of us did a fashion show in Monaghan, and afterwards, you said to me that you had a vision, because I always talked about, the fashion show or whatever, that I would be participating in a fashion show, and it more or less came to fruition, but you hadn't actually consciously thought about it before.
Oh.
But it was a vision in your head when you would be listening to music in your car. And I
Yes.
just thought, that is very powerful. That's
Yeah.
visualization, with no, you didn't set out to say, okay, Liz is going to have a fashion show, like, but just the power of pure visualization.
Yeah.
I think that was very strong. So the way it happened and the people who are involved and all,
Mm.
so it was very real. You know, I remember coming out of the Hillgrove one morning and we were talking about it, and you told me this, and I couldn't believe it,
Yeah.
but I did believe it, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, it was such a powerful image of you driving along in your car, having these thoughts, thinking about, I'm losing this fashion show and whatever, and it happened, really happened.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah. And just to explain, when I was having those visions, I think it speaks to the relationship that a coach can have with a client, that we're thinking of you in between sessions in a good way. We're sending out positive thoughts, hoping for the best, still willing, open to going back to the next session, totally open and curious about what's happened, not expecting that everything's going well, expecting the client to bring what they bring that day. But we do think about clients and wish the best for them. And just to explain, you hadn't mentioned to me about a fashion show that I could visualize it for you because you'd spoken about having your voice and being authentic and being seen and showcasing Monaghan and the arts and crafts and the ancient craft that you practice of hand weaving and hand dyeing. Um, and when I was having those imaginations, I wasn't, thinking to myself, "Oh, I'll imagine Liz now." It just was happening. As me thinking, "Oh, wow, if I would love to help Liz. Really, how could I help Liz expand her voice bigger than she's asked me, or asked herself, or asked me to help her with? What could be the biggest thing?" And to me, it would be a fashion show. Would address all those things that you had mentioned, your voice, showcasing the art and crafts, getting out in front of people, all of that. And yeah, when I had almost forgotten about it until I was in your fashion show in the West End Hotel that I had never been in before. And I suddenly realized that the room that we were in was what I had been visualizing, even had been imagining, even though I had never been there before. And even though you hadn't mentioned to me before you started organizing it that you were going to do a fashion show. And I remember just the goosebumps and thinking, oh my goodness. And that's why I had to tell you afterwards, because and it also it speaks to when you mentioned about the authenticity, because one thing that you and I have both noticed, and our colleagues in the networking group that we're in and beyond have noticed, is that when you do, Liz, when you do speak to camera, you know, and I know that you're speaking from that, not just, but you're speaking from the heart, totally relaxed. You totally know your sector and your industry. The love for what you do just comes out. everybody remarks on it. What a fab voice you have. What a fab voice you are for Monaghan. How well you explain it. How you get people really to feel the emotion that's behind the design and behind the feelings of the products. The scarves, the beautiful scarves, because they're a very visceral, gift to give somebody because they're so beautiful to the skin. There's and the knowledge of how they're created. So it's one thing that I hear a lot is people saying, Liz, that was absolutely amazing, And I did say to you, I think one of the YouTube videos that you have is should be spread to the diaspora around the world, because I was the diaspora at one point, and I know that would have it would have taken the heart out of my chest and brought it back to Ireland, because it was so, it just, even watching it on screen, you just feel all the feelings. And just going back a bit, I love that when I asked you if you link into your strengths and skills that you developed during coaching, that you went and how you respond when you're asked to speak. Your first words there were honored to do it and totally capable of doing it without any hesitate. I'm sure there is sometimes hesitation. We all do. But the overriding feeling is I'm honored to do this and let's go and I can do this. So that's really wonderful to hear.
Yeah, like I was speaking at an event a few weeks ago. It was where craft people were being encouraged by the Coach Ireland to engage with tourism. And I never thought all those years ago that I would be up there, somebody from Monaghan, where we're not known for our tourism. We don't have the honed tourism product that other areas of Ireland has. And they were looking to me to just to share my experience, and encourage other people to get involved. And I was happy to do that because, I mean, I have a foot in both sectors, and
Yes.
I enjoy both sectors. And from the beginning, when I started off weaving, I knew very early on that my customer was the visitor, the tourist, or mostly the tourist to Ireland, who was buying my product. So even though I was, made the decision to base myself in Monaghan, because I'm very rooted in Monaghan, I knew that my clientele was on the Wild Atlantic Way or at Giant's Causeway or down in Killarney or wherever, Yeah. So I do love tourism, and I always feel that even if I'm in Tipperary or Sligo or Donegal or somewhere else, I am a visitor. I am a tourist because I am outside of my normal day-to-day life. So we're all visitors, we're all tourists, and it's all about the experience we have, and let's make it as positive as it can be for everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
One thing also that I took from coaching and reading The Secret as well is it's not that we have to be positive and laughing and happy all the time, because that's not real. But I just think it's about finding a different way to deal with negative things. There'll always be stuff, and it's knowing that you can deal with them and finding a way to turn things around and find a positive in them, find a way forward, that the problem becomes an opportunity to develop in some way,
Yes. Yeah. So on that note, then I'm going to ask you about how you found the process of coaching, of being coached. And you mentioned that it is different from counseling. Of course, it's one of the first things that a coach will always explain in great detail, so the clients are very clear what the difference is. So if you were to tell somebody else how they could get the best benefit out of coaching, what did you find brought you the best benefit?
I think an openness to embrace ways of better ways of doing things, and kind of how you respond to things, which I feel is very important, particularly for those negative things that come up in life, rather than reacting to them, that you have mechanisms, that you have tools that you can put in place for when something happens, that you will retain your calmness or clarity of mind, or that at least it won't be shaken for too long.
Yeah.
If it is the deep breathing, that that's the first thing you go to, and it gives you those few minutes just to step back and get into the right headspace to really deal with the issue, to respond to it as opposed to reacting to it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And how did you find the coaching process in the sessions yourself?
Well, I loved the walk in the woods part of it. I found when we went back and we had paper things, notes and all that, I found that more difficult, because that is me not in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
If it was color coded, I would be quite happy with that. And I do believe that you actually did have color in it. My memory is that you had color in it.
Yes.
So I engaged with it, and said I would do the homework, and I did. I suppose I did a lot of it in my head. I worked on myself in my head. And we've had many sessions, and sometimes the results of the session aren't evident, when you come away from it. But I can still remember conversations we had, and one of them was about the strength of a butterfly coming out of its cocoon.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And that is a very strong image, and that stays in my head, and that is inspirational for me when it comes to pricing a product, because it's not just the product, it's the effort that went into making the cocoon as well. It's when visitors come to the studios, and they'll always ask me, how long does it take to make a scarf? And I honestly can't give a straight answer, because there's no two the same, really, because we're humans, we're not machines. But I've come to the conclusion now that it was a lifetime of patience and determination it took to make every scarf. Hence it's that notion of the butterfly is the result of a long time of an effort, in creation, I suppose.
Yes. And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because in a way that also parallels with coaching, the coaching process itself, because, it isn't a one session fixes all approach. It's not necessarily a lifelong approach either. Usually, between 4 and 8 sessions is what somebody will come to for a coaching engagement, and may come back for top ups later on, a year or 2 years later. But change is difficult, and that's why coaches will always recommend that people have follow-up sessions, because you could feel great after one session if you've been talking and have had somebody listen to you and you've gone away with ideas, but old habits kick back in very quickly, and that change takes time. But over time, the butterfly does really come out of the cocoon, and oh my goodness, the magic then. And then the butterfly is out and free and completely different, a completely different entity than when it went in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even I can bring that back to many years ago when I was in college. A colleague of mine did her third year, her final show, based on butterfly wings. Her rugs and her bedspreads were hand woven, based on the colors of the butterflies. And it's an image that's still very strong in my mind. So it's funny. There's a whole circle there. And I think it's important to be able to recognize and reach into these things, to tap into the energy that they bring.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Now that I've thought about that, her image, her color, and that would be in my head today, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I was just thinking the same thing as you said it. I was thinking the same thing. It's so important for us to be open and notice these things.
Yeah.
They're not coincidences, or they're wonder. If they are coincidences, they're wonderful
Yes.
coincidences.
Yeah.
And we can really get great joy and magic from them when we notice them. Not to just let it pass by because you're busy with your head
Yes.
down doing something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Um, so so finally, I suppose, what would you say to somebody who's thinking about coaching? It never is something that somebody needs kind of urgently, unless there's an interview or a public speaking engagement coming up.
I would say give yourself the best present you ever could.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to Showcase Ireland earlier on in the year, and there were some issues that, I had to deal with. And I thought to myself, I'm spending money on going to do this show to meet people. And what if X, Y, and Z were to happen? I'm going to be a mess that day, even though, with all the tools in the world, it would have an impact on me. So I thought to myself, I woke up the Thursday morning before the show and I said, I need to talk to Lisa today. And I contacted you and you said, we can arrange a session. We arranged it around your cat and its surgery, I remember,
That's right.
which
Yeah.
was perfect. And I thought, why am I spending money on a show, but not on myself to do the best performance that I can possibly do? Because this show is important. It sets the business up for the year. It makes, the orders start to come in. It's really important. And I thought, I'm wasting my time going to do that if I don't look after me. How can I bring, work to my team, if I'm not looking after myself? If I'm not, in fact, another thing that I would have taken directly from coaching was, you must fill up your own cup before you can fill anybody else's. Put on your mask before you can look after the children on the plane if the masks come down. And I realised there's a team of people relying on me for their jobs, for their livelihoods. So it's important that I kind of get to bed early and get to sleep, and waking up fit and well in the morning so that I can do my job.
Yes.
And be true to myself, be true to my dream, and have the life that I want to have with my husband.
Yes.
I owe it to myself, and I think before you can look after anybody else, before you can love anybody else, you have to look after and love yourself.
Totally. What a beautiful note to bring this to a close. We couldn't say any better than that. Because and also so that you are happy, that you're full of energy. You're looking after yourself, you're sleeping, you're eating, you're looking after your mindset, you're getting the help, you're accessing the help you need. I always say that's resilience in action. Asking for help
Yes.
is resilience in action. It's the complete opposite of what many of us were trained to think as, when we were younger, which is stiff upper lip, grin and bear it, keep going, just get through it on your own. It's the opposite now. Thought leaders say, no, asking for help is resilience in action. And asking for help or support, or asking for additional, not waiting until the well is dry, but fill it up again.
Fill
it up more.
And the weather has been grey since God knows when, and most of the time I don't even notice it. Now I have to say, this past wee while it has been getting to me a bit, but most of the time, I don't think, oh God, the weather, because that's the negativity and that's what's gonna bring you down, so you kind of have to find, okay, well, find where the color is. It's not in the skies, you have to find where it is. So I find that in my dye pots, and I find that energizes me, and being with Pat energizes me, and being surrounded by people whose company you enjoy. And there doesn't have to
Yeah.
be loads of them, but again, it's very important that it's genuine.
Yes. Yeah. And you said finding the color yourself, but in finding it so well, you do it so well now in finding the color and finding the weather within you and finding the joy that, physically and emotionally you shine out the color to everybody else then, in your products, the color,
It is all about
you're
color.
emitting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're, it's like they say, to be the candle with the mirror. You're the mirror, you're the candle in the mirror that reflects the light out to everybody else by
Absolutely.
looking after yourself first. So it's really evident, and people will say that. I've heard them say it. So yeah, brilliant. Liz Christy from Handwoven in Ireland. I am so grateful to you for your time today to maybe
Pleasure.
help to help other people to understand what coaching is, because it is hard to describe it until you've been through it yourself.
It is.
But just how magic it can be as a process. As coaches, we go for coaching ourselves because we know it works and we believe in the process ourselves. So it's lovely to hear somebody who's been through my practice, hearing their experience. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
So, folks, lizchristy.com. Please check out Liz's beautiful products and all her YouTube videos explaining the history behind the products and the studio as well. They're a joy to watch. They're a joy to receive as gifts. They're a joy to give yourself as a gift. I've given myself many gifts from Swallow Studios and they're all treasured pieces. So make sure you visit lizchristy.com.
Thank you.